What's up, everybody? It's Nick here today from Tough Putty Fitness. Today I wanted to go over an exact steps for a 6-week program for getting back into the gym. So this will be especially advantageous for you guys who haven't really been doing anything at all over the break. And even if you have been doing bodyweight workouts, you can kind of adapt this program in a little bit. I have fluctuations based on if you have or if you haven't for different percentages and different weeks. So this will be kind of a part 2 to the first video that I made, where we go over the science behind all that goes on in your body as you're trying to get back into shape, and trying to give you a why and give you like an argument for doing what I recommend you do. So if you haven't seen it, please watch that video for like better understanding what's going on, so you can understand why we pick what we do in this program. And so for week 1, I'm calling open gym, open bar. So right as the gyms open back up, you're going to be doing nothing but an open barbell. And obviously, if you're a little bit stronger, if you're squatting, benching, or deadlifting like 3, 4, or 5 plates, you can put a little bit more on the bar, but really the goal is to not be sore 3 or 4 days after and have that accumulate, so it makes it harder to get through the rest of the program, because all of that accumulation of soreness, especially in the beginning, isn't going to really add to any increase of muscle mass. So why really do it in the first place? It'll just make it harder to stick with the program in the long run. So that's what we're going to be doing. And throughout this video, I'm going to be playing an example of a workout in the background. I'm just going to be doing 2 exercises because it took me forever to film them. And it's going to be squatting and leg extensions, just as an example for you to kind of follow along with this programming. And as you'll be watching the squatting that I'm playing now, seeing how slowly I'm moving, and I'm pausing at the bottom, really trying to ingrain that motor engram that we talked about in the first video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, definitely go watch that. But we're definitely trying to ingrain that motor engram, that pattern, so it can be as efficient as possible. So when we move back up to the big weights, it'll be a nice, really greased, smooth groove, and it'll feel really good. And another thing on the topic of soreness, I've learned from a lot of clients that, as well as from my own personal experience, it's not really fun working out when you're super sore, and it really inhibits your want to go back to the gym. So 3 days in, if you're feeling so sore you really can't even get off the couch, all that motivation you've built up from the months and months of not being able to work out kind of gets killed, and you're back into the same old modality of not really wanting to train after all that soreness that you've acquired. So as we go through all 6 weeks, each one is going to be slightly focused on something different, so make sure you make it through all of them and focus on each one slightly differently. That doesn't mean they're going to be exclusive to the one thing that we're focused on. It'll just mean we're putting more time and energy into that week and prioritize that idea. Also, if you notice that I'm pausing even during the isolation movements, this isn't so much for the motor program, but more so for the tendon health and tissue health that we talked about before. I don't want to go into too much detail, but that's really what that's going to be for, and I'll make a video on that later. So for weeks 2 and 3, our main focus is going to be redeveloping our muscular connection, our mind-muscle connection, as pretty much everyone else calls it. So what you're going to be working with is approximately 50 to 65% of your 1 rep max. I know a lot of you guys are really focused on linear periodization, where you like to have an exact number that you work with, and you like to just track it through the exact reps you're going to be doing. You like to have that piece of paper right in front of you and just follow the program. But what I'm really going to be recommending in this time where you're getting back into the gym and you really don't know where you're at is a slightly more auto-regulatory programming, so where you're kind of fluctuating based on how you feel. And that's really going to be a lot more useful to your training, especially since you don't know really any of your numbers, any of your 1 rep maxes or your 5 rep maxes, whatever you used to track. So using that system through especially weeks 2 and 3, just focusing on the squeeze and contraction, and accumulating a little bit of fatigue during this time, but not so much that it's carrying over from day to day, just slowly building it up. And another way we're going to do this by limiting how much central nervous system fatigue we accumulate, just like general muscle fatigue, more focused and just less draining stimulus, will be slightly lowering the amount of focus that we have on the bigger, heavy compound movements that are really draining and take a lot of energy and basically mental excitement, and adding a little bit more tension, stress, and a little bit more volume to our isolation movements. So in the examples I'm showing you, we're going to be adding a little bit of extra volume and intensity to the leg extensions, and technically still increasing the weight for the squatting that we're doing, but not as much so as the leg extensions. Another thing I'd like to add for trying to figure out what kind of weights or percentages you're going to be using, depending on the 50 to 65, really just try to figure out what will be comfortable for you in your rep range, specifically to do in that rep range paused reps. because those are going to be very useful for making sure you maintain your form coming from the open bar week that we had, moving up our weights a little bit. You really want to make sure that form stays good. This is also super important, and a lot of people forget about it, allowing your tissues to adapt as well, because your cardiovascular system will come back pretty quick, and your metabolites will kind of start to cycle through pretty quickly, and you'll start to be less sore probably like 2-3 weeks in. But your tendons and your other tissues aren't adapted, they're not tightened, and they're not stiffened enough to handle those super heavy loads that you were used to before. So the slow tapering process will also be advantageous for allowing those tissues to adapt and be reinvigorated into the training that you were doing before as well. So week 4 is going to be our heavy week. It's not really going to be like we're going to be maxing out or really peaking or anything like that. It's really just going to be you adjusting mentally as well as physically to having heavier weights. So you're going to be working with a little heavier rep ranges, maybe dropping the reps just a little bit to manage the volume and intensity that you're going to be working with. So maybe picking something like your 5 rep max and doing it for 3, or maybe picking something like your 8 rep max and doing it for 5, just dropping it slightly so that you're not going crazy with the RPE, which is just, as we talked about before, the rate of perceived exertion. At least I believe I mentioned that in the first video. If I didn't, let me know, and I can go into that in a little more depth at another time. But really the important thing will be to managing a little bit heavier weights than you have in a long time, but not maxing out or going to failure. So you're not accumulating so much fatigue that it's going to make it so that you can't get to the end of this week. Also, another way we're going to manage this fatigue as we're slowly increasing our weights in our compound movements is actually going to be slowly decreasing and tapering back. So trying to find that middle ground where we're dropping one and increasing the other back up of our isolation movement. So in this example, our leg extensions are going to drop back down a little bit, the weights and the reps. Just the total intensity and energy that we're putting into that exercise is going to slowly decrease as we slowly taper up our heavier movements. This will allow us to be less drained through the week, keep our technique good as we taper up the weights. And what this is also for as well as to make sure we're not getting sick during this time, because that's a concern for a lot of people, pretty much everyone. And allowing our total volume to stay lower but slowly increasing our volume for our compound movements will allow us to have a good base and balance of both of what we want, getting back into shape, getting stronger, but also not grinding ourselves into the ground to where we're limiting our other daily tasks and maybe reducing our immune function as well. And it may seem like I'm babying this whole process through the first 6 weeks of going really slow and then maybe slightly faster and then a little faster than that. But if you can have the discipline to go really slow and then slowly build up and build up and build up and build up to really hard training, and then be able to maintain that hard training where you're cycling back and forth through deloading and peaking and accumulating that fatigue, and then just letting your body rest and recover, but actively as well, obviously, so the tissues and everything can maintain blood flow and you can recover more effectively, as we'll be talking about in other videos and how to do such things. But if you can do that and you can build very slowly after that training, you'll really increase your ceiling and your overall performance, and your technique and everything else will stay good. So you'll stay injury free longer and you'll get stronger in the long run. And as we were just talking about, so for week 5, we're going to be doing a deload week. So whatever that really looks like for you. I'm not really going to be telling you exactly how you should be deloading, because your different goals may require different things. Just general principles apply. Really decreasing our volume significantly, trying to maintain an RPE of about 5 or 6. So saving a lot of reps in the tank, and just making sure you're still getting into the gym though. You're not sitting on the couch. I know a lot of people like to take a couple rest days and just stop working out altogether, and that's kind of their deloading. But it's a lot more effective if you can get into the gym and just slow and steady chip away and really have that discipline to go, but not to go overboard. That's definitely the most effective way to do such things. Okay, so week 6 is the week you've all been waiting for. It's going to be our peak week. So basically what I've been saying this whole time, just take your workout style and your goals and apply it to a peak week. So you're going to be going heavier, you're going to be going harder, but you're going to be doing it safer, especially if you're someone who likes to really perform 1 rep maxes and really grind it out, and like you're really trying to push your numbers. Definitely try to do that safely and effectively, and base it off of the numbers you were performing these last couple weeks, not on what you were doing before you got into the gym. As I said in my first video, your numbers will definitely be returning soon, but if you're not there yet, you're not there yet. And if you try to push the envelope when you don't have that room to push it, you're gonna fall off and you're probably gonna get injured. Not to say that your numbers might not be there, but if they aren't there, pushing it isn't gonna help you at all. So to go back to the practical application of this, you can perform a 1 rep max, but a lot of other people would recommend, and if you really don't need to be doing such things, like if you're not a power lifter, if you're just trying to generally get back in shape, there's really no need for you to be performing a 1 rep max deadlift, squat, and bench all in the same week to just murder yourself. And it would be actually a lot more effective for your goals if you're just trying to build muscle to perform something like a 5, 6, 7, or 8 rep max, because you can track it just as effectively, if not more effectively, because it relies less on your mental preparedness and your just general energy that day, and more so on your muscular endurance and your muscular strength that you've built throughout that block. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this, guys. I really enjoy making these videos, and I really hope to keep making more of them, and I'd love your insight on what you like about the videos, what you don't like about the videos. I'm definitely open to constructive criticism, and whatever you guys have qualms with, please let me know, and I'll try to do my best to adjust it. And I'll also be including my skeleton here for more videos of explanations of anatomy and kinematics, which is just the body moving through space and like how it should move and the most effective way to do different movements. And we'll be doing also workout tutorials and specific movement tutorials and a lot of explanation of the behind the scenes and the things that I really enjoy explaining, as well as any other questions that you guys have. So thank you so much for your time, guys, and have a good day.